Welcome to the Best You podcast, where we explore the journey of inner peace, harmony, and joy that comes from living authentically. Every week, we will dive into transformative conversations that describe both the way you can create behavioral change for yourself and how to create the conditions that promote peace, harmony, and joy around you. Whether you're seeking balance, deeper relationships, or a spark of inspiration, you're in the right place. In this episode of The Best You, we're going to discuss romantic relationships and partnerships. This is a great topic. It's one of my favorite because those intimate, close relationships have the greatest potential for so much joy and also so much heartache. So the question is how do we move that dynamic more onto the balance of more joy and less heartache? And so I'm really glad to be discussing this topic of joy with you, Scott, today. And I think it'd be great to talk a little bit about relationship theory without getting too scientific and technical. I think it's really an interesting dynamic about the what, whys, and hows of these intimate relationships. So, so let's talk about the research of Harville Hendrix. So Harville Hendrix is a relationship researcher, and he describes our romantic relationships as the following. So when we're young and at an impressionable age, we inevitably get wounded by those close to us or some important other in our life. And that wounding leaves kind of an imprint, like a fear or a sense that we're not lovable or we're going to be left behind. And we go through our life with that fear. And usually it's we find a way to adapt to it, and we use that fear to our benefit. But at some point in our life, as we've talked about in previous episodes, this fear can start to get into our way, and it becomes more maladaptive than adaptive or helpful. And so when we meet somebody that we fall in love with, actually, it on a subconscious level, that person reminds us of the one who wounded us. But they feel like a healed version of that person. So when we meet them, we go, oh my gosh, you complete me. So remember that line from Jerry Maguire? It's because it feels like that parent or caregiver or whoever has finally come into our life and come in a healed way so that we don't have to experience that wounding anymore. But we would not recognize that in that person if they were completely healed. So it's because they still have the potential to wound us. Do we recognize them as a potential person to make us feel complete? So, of course, when you fall in love, you're filled with all these love hormones and endorphins, which, of course, eventually dissipate. And then you're just left with a person who replicates your most your earliest wounds. So that's how romantic relationships work. And I often hear people say that their romantic partner knows how to hurt them like no other. And it's for this reason. So it seems like it's just like an anthropomorphic, cruel joke. Why would we be attracted to the one who reminds us of the one that wounded us? Well, here is the opportunity. And this is the same thing that Scott and I have been saying for this whole series, is that these challenges are our opportunities to heal ourselves and grow. So when it feels like there's a lot at stake, oh my gosh, I love this person so much, I'm going to be more motivated to do the work that I need to do in order to make this relationship successful. So I'm going to just pause right there and ask Scott how this resonates with him, and if he's had that sense before of an intimate partner who wounds him like no other.
Yeah, well, everything you're saying resonates with me, and it's such an important topic. I think we all yearn for good relationships, and especially have that special person who we can, share our lives really intimately with. And I do believe a lot of our feelings about ourselves and others are formed when we're children, uh, based on experiences, based on what we see, based on what we hear. Um, it's just interesting how even as adults, a lot of our, again, our thinking is originates and is still with us from when we were children. But that being said, I think relationships, intimate relationships are really interesting because I think you're right. That they can be so, heartwarming and make it feel so great. But these are again, these people, they tend to know you really well, and they know your hot buttons. And so, I think that one of the biggest things I've learned, and I've been married for over 30 years now. So I'm not an expert, but I've learned a few things. And I think one of the things to appreciate with an intimate relationship is it's a state of mind. Um, and I think part of the state of mind is to realize there is no perfect human being on this planet. There's no perfect person. I think a lot of people, when they're young, they read books, they watch TV shows, everything's glamorized. You're going to find this knight in shining armor. You're going to find some perfect, whatever. And that's really non-existent. There's no
Yeah.
perfect person. The only thing that's perfect is, if you believe in God, is God. So there is no perfect person. And when you get to know someone, you'll learn that everybody has flaws. Everybody's trying to do the best they can. So I think that's for, again, the mind's so powerful, but if you can just get your state of mind in a place which is, no matter how much they look great when you first meet them, and you talked about the endorphins and all the things, when you first have the beginning of the relationship, the honeymoon phase, you just gotta remind yourself that there's gonna be, you're gonna start to learn about this imperfections, and that's okay. And in fact, Brene Brown wrote a book, Gift of Imperfections, and I encourage you to read it if you haven't, because imperfections are actually wonderful. But so many people find those as bad, and then things go in the wrong direction. But I think if you can have them in your mind that nobody's perfect, but that you want to have a good relationship with someone, then it gets to, I'm going to bring peace, harmony, and joy in this. Take the time to be respectful, and just have good conversations with this person on a consistent basis. Again, this person, one of their imperfections, and guess what? Most human beings will sometimes get emotional and say some things. Well, you have the opportunity to not be emotional in return. You really truly have the ability to control yourself and how you respond. And so I just encourage you to work on that habit of how you interact with people, and you can truly keep relations at a calm place. If you do that, then you stand a chance of having a good long-term intimate relationship. If you don't, if you really truly let their emotions get into your emotions and you go back and forth, I mean, that's how things get ruined. The harmony part is to really truly appreciate the imperfections and all the different things that they bring that you don't have, and even the things that are similar to you. But you're making like a beautiful salad with all these different ingredients, so you're making like a orchestra with all these different instruments. And so I just encourage you to appreciate the other person for who they truly are, and then be in the moment with them. Just really truly take the time to really listen to what they're saying, to really be with them. I think so many relationships that I hear about, they're talking, but they're watching the TV behind them, or they're thinking about something else. But stay calm, appreciate the person, and be in the moment with them. And you'll be amazed how consistent you'll have joyful experiences, and how truly you will be able to ride out some challenging times.
Yeah. And the thing is if I lose my cool, then I'm just going to pour fuel on the fire, and it's just going to go downhill. So it's really hard and really worthwhile, as Scott said, to be in the present moment and manage your feelings, and don't take it personally. Like, just be curious. And we did talk about this in an earlier video about the hot button. So check that out. So I want to share another piece of this, Scott, and see if you have anything else to add, because what I just described with somebody sort of resembling the emotionally the person that wounded me, it also goes in the reverse. It can go in the reverse. So if I don't resemble the one who wounded that person, then he's not likely to be very interested in me. So when we are both resembling the ones who wounded each, the other, that's when we both fall in love. Okay, so now that's a powder keg about to happen because we're bringing our woundedness into the relationship. It's what makes it so beautiful and joyful, and it also has the greatest opportunity or liability for, conflict. So here's what I think is really beautiful, Scott. Whether it's one person or both, if we really understand that that our woundedness is our responsibility, even if it's not necessarily our fault, it is our responsibility. So I can't make my partner, I can't force my partner or complain or make it his responsibility to make me feel safe. Only I can allow myself to feel safe and loved. Now, this is not to say that if there's, real physical abuse and all of that, I'm not saying that, that doesn't count. I'm not including that. But if I just feel unsafe all the time, there is no person in the world that will necessarily have the power to make me change my mind about that. So I have to take some responsibility for myself. And this is really hard. So, Scott, what you talk about is so true. And how you make that a reality takes years of practice. I mean, I've been working on this for decades, and don't get me wrong, it's worth every bit of it because every time I work on it, it gets a little easier. But it's certainly not an overnight thing. It's an ongoing commitment, and the more I do it, the deeper I see how the work is. And so even now, like I've been working on this kind of stuff for decades. I'll notice my partner upsets me or something like that, or I get upset at my partner's behavior. is how I would say I'm taking responsibility for my own behavior. And I might just like get pissy or sad or cry or something, but inevitably I have to go, well, why am I being bothered by this? I mean, at least for me, I'm not in danger or anything like that. Like nothing truly harmful will happen to me. And I have to go, wow, if I think he's being selfish or closed-minded, well, maybe that's probably me. Again, that hypocrisy of if I'm pointing at you, one finger at you, I've got three fingers pointing back at me. And I've just found that when I hear myself complaining about somebody else, I go, wait a minute, that's me. That's me. And it's a great way to hold myself accountable and to not make somebody else responsible for how I interpret their words or behavior.
That's excellent. And it gets back to how powerful the mind is, but also habits that we formed really going back oftentimes to our childhood. And what's interesting about being a human being, unless someone physically hits you, harms you, I mean, no one really truly can make you feel bad. I mean, literally, if you really think about it, people can say mean things to you and say cruel things, but at the end of the day, you can choose not to feel bad if it's how you internalize it.
Yeah.
And
If you
and
believe
in
it,
the
if you believe it,
yeah,
then it hurts. But you
yeah,
don't have to believe it. Like if you're strong in yourself, then the words would have no power over you.
it's huge. And I've had people say some mean things to me, and over time, I've learned that I can control how I respond, not just what I say back, but just how I emotionally feel inside. And I will tell you, usually when someone says something mean to me now, my response inside, like what's going on with that person? Like if that person's saying mean things to me out of nowhere that I don't feel like I deserve, like who else are they saying mean things to? Like what else is going on in their life? Like their spouse, their friends, their like I literally get to a place in my heart which is I take them saying something mean to me, and I feel empathy to them, and I'm like, I get this like, how can I help them? And I just encourage you to think about what we're talking about, because you have the ability, first off, to really consistently feel good about yourself, and even better, you have the opportunity to feel good with your intimate partner, even when they say something bad.
Yeah. Wow. You're a real saint, Scott. No wonder I like working with you. Um, and I think that finger pointing thing goes both directions. So if I'm complaining about somebody else, it's really my accountability. If they're complaining about me, in the same vein, I go, well, maybe that's your own projection or hypocrisy. And I also like to listen, but take it with a grain of salt, because I feel like the degree of truth is on a spectrum, and there's always some truth and some lie to everything. And so I like to go, well, what can I learn from this? Even though I feel like that criticism may not be um, very true or very accurate, there's something for me to learn from here. And maybe, in this case, it's just to be more compassionate towards them, like Scott, so whatever it is, like, I feel like the universe is always showing me where I can learn and do better and grow.
That's huge. And I love what you talked about. If you're complaining about somebody else, you're pointing the finger at them, you're really pointing three at yourself. Those three at yourself should be the reminder to you to think, if that person is doing something wrong, how can I help them? I mean, literally, I mean, if somebody's doing something wrong, if I mean, whatever it is, and you're trying, instead of saying something mean, instead of, trying to put them in their place, take those three fingers that you didn't even point, but in your mind, you're thinking about pointing, point them at yourself and say, how can I help that person do better going forward? And I honestly believe what you give comes back to you 10 times or more. And if you can live it that way, your relationships will be better, but guess what? All these other good things are going to happen to you too.
Mm. I love that, Scott. And what came to mind was asking them, is there anything I can do for you right now? So thank you for showing that to me, Scott. It reminds me of a story I like to tell about my late husband, Chris. Such an empathic soul, and he knew me better than I knew myself. And sometimes I would come home from work and I'd be talking and or doing whatever, and he'd be like, "What's the matter, honey?" And I'd be like, "Nothing." And he'd be like, "No, really, did something happen at work?" And I'd be like, "Oh, yes." So this is where that kindness, right, can really help people um, stop and take a breath and reassess. Like, if we don't just fall into the trap of that anger or anxiety or whatever it is, um, we can help hold that space for each other, self-awareness and growth. And so this is going back to Harwell Hendricks. This is what Hendricks says, that the healthy relationship is where we do that for each other, that both parties in this intimate partnership take responsibility or be on a path towards, because again, it's a long path towards owning their own healing, while also supporting the healing of the other. So if I see my partner getting his hot buttons pushed, that I don't take it personally and I don't react. So this is why I think what Scott says about just staying calm is so powerful, because you let that person work through it without adding fuel to the fire and throwing your own garbage into the mix. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I just want to put an emphasis, an exclamation point on that staying calm, because I'm telling you right now, if you, again, peace, harmony, and joy, if you can't start with peace, if you can't find a way to be calm, if your head's going all over the place, I mean, seriously, if you're feeling anxiety, if you can't think straight, I mean, you're not going to be able to do the rest of what we're talking about. And I just want to, just again, just exclamation point on what Sanna's talking about, because calm is the key. And that's really, some of what we teach with peace, harmony, and joy. I mean, there are lots of ways to find calm. It can be faith in God, it can be nature walks, it can be meditation. Just encourage all of you to find ways to get that inner calm, because your mind is powerful, but if you don't have that inner calm, your mind will go a million of directions. When you have that inner calm, it's amazing how you can be laser focused and truly do with the things that Sanna and I are talking about today.
Yeah. And I had to develop a toolkit, like this works for me, this doesn't work for me, and just go down the list. And sometimes like asking for a timeout can be really helpful. Like, honey, I really want to finish this conversation with you. Can we take a little breather and come back, before dinner to finish this conversation or something like that? And then I'd go and calm myself. And the more I was in that practice, the faster I could, recover. So again, it's no overnight, silver bullet, but it's just a practice where you can improve and improve. And big challenge, big opportunity, big payoff. So true with these romantic relationships, these intimate relationships. So well worth doing.
I agree, and wishing you the best with all your relationships, especially your romantic relationship.
Thanks for tuning in, and check out our platform at healingedu.org for how to create more positive and healthy relationships, and the Peace, Harmony, Joy website where you can get the Peace, Harmony, Joy book and a lot of resources for creating joy in your life. Thanks for joining us today on The Best You. Thank you for tuning in to the Best You podcast. We hope today's conversation sparked some new ways for you to cultivate your inner peace, connect meaningfully with others, and embrace the joy of living in harmony. Remember, being the best version of yourself isn't a destination. It's a daily practice of growth, reflection, and kindness to yourself and those around you. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it for you to subscribe, share it with somebody who'd benefit, and leave a review to help us spread the message of peace and joy. Stay connected, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time on The Best You.